Liza Drake is a single parent whose life is full of struggles. As a former convict due to selling illegal substances, finding a stable job is not easy for her. However, Liza is the type of woman who never gives up. For her little daughter Phoebe, Liza is willing to try various jobs ranging from regular work to becoming an exotic dancer. At her workplace as a dancer, Liza meets Pete Brenner, a man who works at a pharmaceutical company called Zana. Pete offers an opportunity that could change Liza's life, a job in the pharmaceutical world. Although hesitant, Liza feels this might be her chance to turn her life around. On the other hand, Phoebe faces problems at school. Because of her actions, a fire breaks out, making the situation even more difficult. Phoebe is even on the verge of being expelled from school. Liza, meanwhile, has to face harsh realities. She loses her job, gets kicked out of her siblings' house, and must find a new place to live. Fortunately, Liza finds a small rental with friendly neighbors, though the area is quite noisy. On her first night in the new place, Liza promises herself not to give up. Meanwhile, Pete is under pressure at Zana. The company is on the verge of bankruptcy with a debt of $80 million. They are in fierce competition with another pharmaceutical company, Praxiom, which dominates the painkiller market with a product called Seropen. Unfortunately, Seropen has many drawbacks. It's slow at relieving pain, ineffective, and damages teeth. As a competitor, Zana has a product called Lonaven, a painkiller that works in just a few minutes. Despite concerns about dangerous side effects like addiction, Pete continues to promote that the risk is very low, less than 1% according to a study. Seeing this opportunity, Liza decided to meet Pete at his office. She wanted to try her luck even though she knew she lacked the qualifications. A high school graduate with a varied work history clearly didn't have the credentials to enter a pharmaceutical company. But Pete had a clever idea. He edited Liza's resume, transforming her into a biochemistry graduate with research experience and scientific awards. Liza, of course, was shocked to see her fake resume looking so impressive, but she knew opportunities like this wouldn't come twice. Pete brought Liza to meet Dr. Neal directly. Liza's natural confidence and her ability to speak persuasively immediately caught Dr. Neal's attention. Even more impressively, Dr. Neal didn't even need Pete's fake resume to accept her. Dr. Neal knew what the company needed most right now was someone skilled in selling, not academic degrees or experience. Liza was given a huge challenge as her first task: convincing doctors to prescribe medication from Zana Pharmaceuticals. This was because doctors' prescriptions were the key to making the drug sell in the market. The more often doctors wrote Zana's drug on their prescriptions, the more profit the company made. The commission was incredibly tempting. For a full prescription, Liza could earn $40,000 a month. If calculated further, just one patient could generate $48,000 a year. Imagine if Liza managed to secure just 10 patients. She could earn over $400,000 in a year. However, the challenges in the field turned out to be far harder than expected. On her first day, Liza tried approaching Dr. Lytle, a renowned doctor who had once earned $9 million in a year through his collaboration with Zana's rival, Praxiom. But before Liza could convince him, a representative from Praxiom had already swayed Dr. Lytle with lavish offers that were hard to refuse. Liza attempted to pitch Zana's drug, Lonaven, to other doctors, but the results were still zero. Praxiom was too dominant in the market with their tempting facilities and services. As if work wasn't stressful enough, things at home became even more chaotic. Phoebe, Liza's daughter, suddenly suffered a seizure. After a checkup, doctors diagnosed her with arteriovenous malformation, a condition where tangled blood vessels triggered the seizures. Phoebe was advised to stay in a quiet environment, but their small rental was full of unavoidable noise. In her desperation, Liza tried to see Dr. Lytle again, this time to retrieve a Tupperware container she had left at his clinic. While there, Liza accidentally overheard a patient, Matt, complaining that the painkillers Dr. Lytle had been prescribing weren't effective in alleviating the pain caused by his cancer. Liza saw an opportunity. With genuine sympathy, she persuaded Dr. Lytle to try prescribing Lonaven to Matt. Liza assured the doctor that Lonaven worked faster and could provide the relief Matt had been seeking. Their conversation was also overheard by Matt's wife, who eventually supported the decision. Lonaven proved effective, and Matt felt significantly better. Dr. Lytle, who had initially been skeptical, began to trust Liza and the drug she was promoting. This became a major victory for Liza. Pete welcomed her success with pride, though her colleagues continued to underestimate her. The sales she generated were deemed insufficient to make a significant impact on the company. Zana then tried a new strategy, a speaker program. Essentially, it was a sly way to lure doctors with lavish parties and tempting perks. Unfortunately, because Zana's finances were in bad shape, the event had to be done on a tight budget. As a result, no doctors showed up, including Dr. Lytle. The event was a complete failure. Dr. Lytle was disappointed, and Liza had to brainstorm again. She checked in on Matt, the patient who had previously been prescribed Lonaven. The good news was that Matt was feeling much better, giving Liza a strong reason to convince Dr. Lytle to collaborate with her. With their relationship starting to grow, Liza and Dr. Lytle finally agreed to try breaking into the market together. Dr. Liddell was asked to become a speaker to promote Zana's drug, Lonaven. The deal was quite appealing. Every time Dr. Liddell successfully persuaded patients using other companies' drugs to switch to Lonovan, he would earn $1,500 per speech, 3 times a week. Pete explained to Liza, "If we don't take this step, another pharmaceutical company will beat us to it." The competition in the pharmaceutical world was brutal, with companies racing to win over doctors. The plan went smoothly. Within 3 days, 40 patients had been switched to Lonovan. Pete was thrilled with the results and said, "If we keep this up, Liza, you could make over $600,000 this year." Liza herself still found it hard to believe. Just a few nights ago, she had been working as a nightclub dancer, but now she had enough money to buy her mom a new car and more. Imagine, 40 patients in just 3 days. What was even more surprising was that no one in the office knew that Liza and Pete had managed to generate a clean $200,000 in a single week. The profits even gave Xana the confidence to hire more staff to expand their network. However, experience in the pharmaceutical world wasn't a primary requirement to get hired. What mattered most was an attractive appearance and the ability to dominate. Liza's incredibly confident mother didn't want to miss out either. Seeing the opportunity to earn $200,000 a week from just one doctor, she decided to get involved. Once the new team was formed, they underwent intensive training and motivation sessions. The hunt for doctors began. They were ready to offer anything to ensure Xana's drugs made it onto prescriptions. All of this was done to rake in massive profits from the pain and suffering of patients. Within 1 quarter, Xana managed to dominate 86% of the market share in the Southeast region. Their success was so extraordinary that their competitor, Praxiom, started to struggle. Praxiom couldn't even afford to launch new programs to attract doctors to prescribe their medications. As a last resort, Praxiom recklessly began selling their drugs off-label. This meant offering the same drug for multiple conditions it wasn't actually approved for. As a result, their actions violated regulations, and the company was ultimately shut down by authorities. Meanwhile, Xana continued to soar. Their sales skyrocketed by 400% in just 3 days, and the company was named the top IPO of the year. The company executives began throwing lavish parties more frequently, celebrating their ever-growing wealth. But amid all the luxury, Liza felt empty. The wealth she had achieved didn't bring her happiness. Guilt began to creep in as she realized that all of this came at the expense of people suffering and being forced to buy expensive medications just to survive. On the other hand, Liza's mother started behaving strangely. She became envious because her colleagues were earning larger commissions. Not satisfied with just that, she began approaching the big boss to seek additional benefits. The company's boss, increasingly terrified of losing his fortune, became obsessed with sales. When the sales numbers started to plateau, he panicked. In an effort to maintain Xana's glory, the boss decided to follow in Praxiom's footsteps, selling drugs off-label. To him, pain was pain, no matter what condition the patients were suffering from. No matter the patient's condition, the company's boss insisted that doctors prescribe Lonovan, even when it wasn't medically appropriate. The reason? To keep the dollars rolling in. Greedy to the core, he didn't care at all that his actions were illegal and could land everyone involved behind bars. But there was one thing that made the boss sick to his stomach: Liza's mother. The woman kept pestering him, demanding higher commissions through various means. Eventually, the boss gave Liza a direct order: fire your mother. Liza had no choice but to follow her boss's command. She even had to pitch the crazy idea of selling the drug off-label to Dr. Liddell. Shockingly, the doctor, who should have known better about the medical risks, welcomed the idea enthusiastically. Dr. Liddell even demanded 25% of the gross profits from the illegal prescriptions. Crazy, right? Meanwhile, reports about Lonovan's side effects started to surface. It was said to cause severe addiction and increase the risk of overdose. Matt, one of the first patients to use the drug, even lied to his doctor, claiming his condition was worsening just to get another prescription. Unfortunately, Matt had become completely addicted. Things kept spiraling out of control. Phoebe, someone close to Liza, had a seizure relapse. She needed immediate surgery, but the cost was exorbitant. Despite feeling like she once had everything, Liza couldn't help at all because she didn't have enough money. The situation worsened when Dr. Liddell was arrested by the authorities. It turned out that he had been under surveillance for some time, and one of his patients, Matt, had overdosed and died. To make matters worse, Liza's roommate, who had secretly become a victim of Lonovan as well, also died from an overdose. People started swarming Liza, desperate to buy the drug, behaving like crazed addicts. Liza was overwhelmed. She decided to sell her shares and leave Xana. But her boss wasn't about to let that happen. Meanwhile, things were getting worse out there. The death of Liza's roommate hit hard. Guilt and regret took over Liza. She finally decided to muster up the courage to report everything to the prosecutor, exposing all the crimes committed by Xana, her coworkers, and even her own boss. The problem was, her boss, Dr. Neal, was a cunning billionaire. To prove his guilt, the prosecutor needed strong evidence. Up until that point, Dr. Neal had appeared to be a passive investor, letting his subordinates handle the dirty work. Fortunately, Liza's mother played a crucial role. Enough evidence was finally found from the emails between Dr. Neal and Liza's mother, who had previously requested a commission increase. In court, Liza confessed to all her wrongdoings. She admitted she regretted getting involved in that cruel business. Even so, Liza was still seen as more conscientious compared to Dr. Neal. Her sentence was lighter, and after serving her time, Liza chose a simpler life. She started a small skincare business, far removed from the luxury she once enjoyed. This story serves as a big lesson. In an increasingly advanced world where technology and medicine can be created to control people, we must be careful. We mustn't get caught up in the games of greedy, immoral people. May we all always have the awareness to live healthier and closer to God.